Good afternoon to you. Craig Melvin here at MSNBC headquarters in New York City, where we continue to follow that breaking news. Immunity. A second Trump confidant was given immunity in the Michael Cohen case. NBC News reporting longtime Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg was involved in the payment to Stormy Daniels. We are following the money on this Friday. Well, I want to bring in former federal prosecutor Seth Waxman now, and John Meacham as well. John Meacham, of course, presidential historian, also an MSNBC contributor. Let me start with you, Seth. The Weisselberg grant of immunity on top of David Pecker's immunity deal, Cohen's plea. As a prosecutor, what do you make of this? And would prosecutors really grant immunity to Pecker and Weisselberg if they were just going after Michael Cohen?
So it's a big week for the prosecution. You know, professional advisors like these people, attorneys, CFOs, business associates, can provide incredibly important information in white-collar investigations. So when you put those all three together, you know, it's a big week for the prosecution. And would they give immunity to more than one person? Sure. You know, there's a question as to what kind of immunity has been given and what the scope of that immunity is. But by all accounts, these are not good legal developments for Trump and his team.
But would they grant immunity to both of them, to Pecker and Weisselberg, if they were just going after Michael Cohen? And if Cohen's got this treasure trove of evidence, you know, reportedly emails and text messages and recordings, would a prosecutor need to grant immunity deals to these two gentlemen to get Michael Cohen?
Well, no, obviously Mr. Cohen's already pled guilty, so he seems to either be in the fold or heading towards going into the fold. I mean, to me, this is all about moving up the chain, going to higher levels within the Trump Organization, and no higher level, obviously, now than the President of the United States. And that seems to be a clear goal, immunizing these important members of the Trump Organization with regards to Mr. Weisselberg and a longtime associate in Mr. Pecker. This can't be construed, in my mind, as anything other than a huge play up into and towards the President.
John Meacham, it has been quite the week, and it's actually kind of hard to fathom that Cohen was actually indicted earlier this week. So you've got Cohen, you've got Pecker, you've got Weisselberg now. What, John Meacham, do you make of all this legal activity surrounding some of the president's closest associates and advisors?
Well, you know, for more than 2 years, almost 3 years now, we've talked about the political signposts that we were all accustomed to, that Donald Trump blew past or ran over or ignored. He got away with saying things that no previous mainstream American politician could get away with. He got away with sort of defying political gravity again and again. What we're seeing now, and I think what this week really brings into focus, is that no one can really defy legal gravity. Politics is more fluid. It's about the dispositions of heart and mind and temperament of a given number of people at a given moment. But the law is the law. And I think that, as frustrating as it is for those of us who are engaged in the arena to think that all this moves so slowly, the legal wheels have always moved more slowly than the political ones. And I think that when we write about this period, we will look back on August of 2018 as an inflection point where the legal signposts actually have resisted Trump's attempts to blow past them or run them down.
One of the mantras, of course, of Watergate, John Meacham, was, you know, follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. It would seem as if that is what investigators are once again doing here with President Trump. They're following the money. Does it strain credulity, John Meacham, to think that Donald Trump could have been unaware of all of this as it was happening?
Oh, I think that the Trump candidacy and presidency has stretched irony and credulity beyond any human recognition. So I don't think so. You know, when people were talking to the Trump campaign about possibly going on the ticket and getting involved in the summer of 18, I had people tell me, I suspect you heard the same thing, that one of the things that was both interesting and unnerving about the Trump operation was that you could fit the significant people in one town car. And the president ran, the candidate, the nominee, and the president runs his own operation. It's the solipsism of the Trump organization, branding his name, everything, is now to some extent coming home to roost.
Seth, the Wall Street Journal first reported the Weisselberg involvement. I want to read part of that story. This is the part that caught my attention. Executives at the Trump organization grossed up for tax purposes Mr. Cohen's requested reimbursement, doubling it to $360,000 and added a $60,000 bonus, the document said. The next month, one executive at the company asked another executive to pay Mr. Cohen's monthly retainer from the trust and to post to legal expenses. If that is true, Seth Waxman, what does that say to you about the way that the Trump organization handles money? And does that sound and smell like money laundering?
Well, it surely can be. I mean, the way they're disguising these transactions and kind of booking them in an odd way, prosecutors will look at that as kind of evidence of criminal intent and efforts to conceal the nature of the transaction. So all of that put together is material that the prosecution will be using as it moves forward against Mr. Cohen or anyone else that may be involved, up into including the president, to the extent he had knowledge and signed off on these things. And one other thought I just had listening to this discussion about how August 2018 may be an inflection point. Part of it may be that 60-day window, that policy that DOJ has not to influence elections. And I know Mr. Trump's not up for election here in November, but maybe we're seeing this flood of activity before essentially September 5th because they don't want to mess with what essentially Mr. Comey did a couple, up into including the election and stay clear of that. So we may be in that critical 2 weeks before that 60-day period and why we're seeing so much activity right now.
All right. Seth Waxman, thank you. John Meacham, do stick around for me, sir, if you can.